You want to know something? A little secret?
What?
Well, it's not really a big secret, but today is our year anniversary, which means this video will actually be released after a video where we proclaim that again.
Yep.
So this intro is totally pointless.
Pointless as hell.
Speaking of pointless, today we watched a movie that is supposed to be an adaptation of a anime that came out about a decade or so ago, and it was a pretty popular anime. In fact, it kind of took the not only the anime world by storm, but it kind of crossed over into the mainstream a little. It had some live adaptations in Japan that even got showings here in America. It was kind of like a little phenomena, and recently Netflix had a version of it, an adaptation of it by the same name. We're talking about Death Note, which I guess you knew if you clicked on the damn thing. But anyway,
it's a habit that has not died, and it should.
And it never will, probably.
Never will.
But yeah, Death
Note.
Note.
Been a year.
Death Note came out on Netflix, and there was some relative buzz for it, because again, the following was there, so everybody was kind of like waiting to see what the fuck. And I gotta admit, when I saw the trailer, it got me interested. I never saw the anime, so it got me interested in the actual source material. So I went back and saw the source material for research purposes. And you intentionally did not see the source material because, one,
I'm
super lazy.
Shit, yeah.
And two, by the way, that's just a phenomenal achievement there. To be so lazy that you don't even do things where you're not required to do anything.
Yeah. Well, to be fair,
that's a year anniversary mark.
I actually went into other shows.
Yeah. But anyway.
But most of it was laziness.
We're detracting here.
Yeah.
You were lazy as fuck. And also, it provides us with kind of a template to go here. I'm the guy that saw the source material. You're the guy that didn't see the source material.
Yes, so that is why I didn't watch it.
We're gonna go in on that because I realized after the release of the film, I saw that a lot of people were vehemently against it, and this was kind of disconcerting because this has kind of been a thing on the internet now.
Yeah.
Oh, we just got to be against everything now because people like it just cause. So I was wondering exactly where this movie landed. Did it earn that hatred or did it not? And I said this is especially true because I actually really, truly, and you did too, enjoyed the Ghost in the Shell adaptation, which was pretty damn loyal, and whatever it did add only contributed to the subject matter that was there. So I was really interested to see how this one fared. So let's talk about it. Let me just get this off right here at the beginning because there is one thing that I absolutely did love about this movie. That is worth mentioning from the top, and that was the score. It was very reminiscent of kind of like an 80s techno thriller.
Yeah, I was about to say that.
It was really excellent. That was a great score.
It was actually kind of similar in Ghost in the Shell. It had a kind of similar like little tuku.
Yeah, exactly. It would have fit in perfectly into a film like that, or maybe like a Blade Runner, or it even had a Carpenter-esque quality to it, like Escape from New York. It would have fit into that. It was really versatile score, and it was really it had an 80s feel. I thought it was a fantastic score. But anyway, just had to say that because that was really like throughout the whole movie. I was like, man, this is a really good ass score.
Yeah, it actually helped a lot.
So let's talk about the film overall. Like, okay, again, you're the blank slate here. What as a movie that you just saw, what did you think? Was it good? Was it bad? Was it what was it?
Yeah, I didn't really know what to think going in because I was seeing a lot of people saying that if you like the anime, you'll probably dislike the movie. But there's also a lot of people saying that they like the movie.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I guess. You said the anime is really cool, so I was like, all right, let's watch it. I kind of liked it.
Okay. Is that like, all right, like a middling kind of liked it? Or like, yeah, it's pretty damn good?
I was expecting to kind of be like whatevs about it, and I actually kind of liked it.
Okay. Having seen the anime...
I wouldn't say I love it.
Right.
But I liked it.
Having seen the anime, as an adaptation, it's abysmal. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah, I was about to ask that, actually.
As an adaptation, it is fucking trash. Utter fucking garbage. It should be thrown out the window as an adaptation. So if you love the anime, you probably already know this because you already saw the damn thing. Let me just say this. If you haven't seen the anime and you would just prefer to see an hour and a half of a movie, then just see this movie because the anime is going to ruin this movie for you because the anime is vastly superior and completely different to this. Or if you want to see something good, 100% good, go see the anime. But that being said, as a casual viewer, the moment it started, I knew one thing: I have to put the anime out of my head immediately. There's the basic structure, the Death Note, the Shinigami Ryuk being there sometimes, and the guy's name is Light. That's about all you get. And there's little things like L, the detective in the movie. He's there, and the guy that played him actually did a good job of bringing across the physical mannerisms and quirks of L. But again, that it's very superficial, the structure that's there. So yeah, as an adaptation, abysmal. As a movie, I enjoyed it. It had good and bad in it, so we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie that I loved. It wasn't a movie that I hated. It was a movie that's there, and I kind of accept. Maybe in the second watch, it'll be better.
Yeah.
But anyway,
don't watch the anime, or do watch the
watch
anime.
one or the other. If you haven't seen one of the other, pick one, because one is
maybe watch the movie first.
Yeah, I highly recommend the anime. But that is like 37 episodes, 20 minutes each. That's not too bad. It's like 6 hours or something. Anyway, let's talk about it. Let's break it down.
That actually raises a problem that I had with the movie that I was forgiving because I thought it was adapting the anime.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get into it.
Okay. So, yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's get the kind of superficial, since this is kind of a superficial adaptation, let's get the superficial stuff out of the way. We already talked about the score. We agreed on that. That was pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that I kind of didn't enjoy when they used actual songs.
Yeah, sometimes it kind of fell flat.
Yeah. So, I mean, they kind of like the lyrics contributed to what was being seen, but they just kind of didn't mesh well with the score because the score was so superior. But anyway... effects-wise, the effects were pretty good, man. They were pretty damn serviceable. I did enjoy when they showed kind of the effects that our main character, when he takes on the identity of Kira, is having on the world, Yeah. You kind of see the chaos and stuff like that. And but of course, the effect we're really talking about here is Ryuk, the Shinigami demon creature. And he's used sparsely, which kind of surprised me. I did like... at the beginning, how he was kept, kind of blurry in the background. That was really cool. And, but they brought it forward too quick. I mean, not that he's like a big secret, but I thought that blurring effect kind of like really underlined how the character was being portrayed in this adaptation. But whatever, once you see him, it's pretty neat effect. Yeah, obviously, enhanced physical effect. But it works, it works. And it sure as hell looks a lot better than he did in the live-action Japanese versions, which was very cartoony looking. It basically just looked like a CGI animated version of the cartoon. And this is a little bit more realistic. What you think about
I thought he looked... Well, the effects I thought were good. The gore, I think, was pretty interesting. It took on that weird, end of RoboCop where people are just like goo bags, basically.
Yeah.
Which I thought looked interesting. At least it kept it consistent throughout the movie, so it looked interesting enough. The deaths were all right, but yeah, he was good. I thought he was good, but for a dude, he's like supposed to be super tall, right? Like there's a part where he's like standing up and Light's looking at him. He looks like he's like normal size,
right?
And there's a scene where he's like sitting on a bed, and you're like, that guy's like shorter than Light. What the hell?
Yeah.
So I think the height was not well
pulled off.
Yeah, pulled off. Like he just looked like a guy. But I thought the effect was decent enough, and like the the lips and all the face looks really CG.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. Like I think they hit it well enough.
Yeah, it was a good balance of the effect, the physical effect, and Willem Dafoe's face.
Yeah.
Which
so I mean, the movie was a $40 million budget, so
it was
good enough.
Yeah, I mean the effects work is what we're saying here. On the gore, I did think it was interesting because in the anime there is no gore. You rarely see blood, and we'll talk about that more in depth right now. But the gore. I thought if they were going to use the gore, that they really should have gone balls out with it. A little bit ballsier. It was just kind of there at the beginning, and then it just petered out.
Yeah, that is one thing. Like, I actually thought it looked interesting, but it was kind of used inconsistently. Like, it would go long stretches without being there, and then it would show up again, so it was kind of weird.
Yeah, and I actually thought the gore was to the benefit because they have an hour and 30 minutes, basically, to tell a story that spans that many episodes. That could have, really... pump things up a little, but anyway, For what it's worth, the effects were effective, for lack of better words. Visually speaking, the lighting and stuff like that, it had a kind of like a darkish, kind of like edgy tone, I guess. That worked for the material, I thought, and some stuff was more effective in transmitting the mood than other stuff.
Yeah.
But overall, I think maybe you agree with me or disagree with that.
I thought at first it looked cheap, but I actually thought the more they lit it properly and darker it got, the better it looked.
Yeah.
And I guess you could just kind of get used to it.
Yeah, kind of. Okay, so now we get to the meat of it. The characters, the story, and all this stuff. Okay, let's start with the characters. I'm gonna start us off here because the biggest problem as an adaptation is light, and the biggest problem as just viewing it as a casual viewer is light. He is, as a character, incredibly fucking weak because they don't give him enough of a reason for him to use a Death Note as he does. Now in the movie, it's laid out well enough, I suppose, but the motivation is really like, it's not as well cemented as it is in the anime. Now this is noteworthy because in the anime they do it in one episode, and really they do it in like a few minutes of that episode, and they cement it, and it sticks the whole series. His motivation is clear and clean and cut, and that's it. And I think the issue really was that Light in the movie is he has morals. He has a moral direction.
Yeah.
Because of that he has feelings. And the Light in the show is not a likable character. He is apathetic to the point where he sees the Death Note as a means to rejuvenate the world. But the problem is he's also a sociopath. And he doesn't see that. Like, most sociopaths think they're right. Most sociopaths think they're doing the right thing, despite how awful and detached they might be. And that's Light in the show. This guy had the need to change things, but his motivations were I thought that having his mother die, that's a pretty good way to make that quick. That's a good motivation. His mother was killed by a criminal that got off. That's a good way to get all that across real quick. But ultimately, it kind of fizzled on me personally. It wasn't enough of a thing. They didn't make it a thing for him to And ultimately, the character Mia, his girlfriend, ends up calling it like it is. He's a pussy. He's a pussy, and up to the point where she calls him that, and I realized that was intentional. I was really kind of bothered by his character. I was like, it's not enough here for him to have become this, to have, to be a character worthy of this station of being the main character. And also because he is so weak, his interactions with Ryuk are hardly ever there. In fact, Ryuk is hardly ever there, but we'll get to Ryuk right now. But anyway, what did you think of Light as a character, you as a casual viewer?
Yeah, I think he went into it really quickly. It was kind of weird. Like, took nothing to convince him, basically, to kill the first dude. But I mean, I wasn't that bothered by it. I guess because I haven't seen the anime. But I was like, I kind of got what they were doing with his girlfriend being the more like douchey character that you kind of hate. And he's kind of like, they give him more of a relatable guy type of thing.
Yeah, I mean that was the intent, I think, because I guess in an American point of view, you need to have a relatable main character, or they feel that. And Light in the anime it's not likable in that sense. But anyway, continue.
So I thought it worked. I mean, it wasn't we'll get to the actors.
Okay, and yeah. Now let's move on to Mia, which in the anime, she's like kind of the equivalent of the character Misa in the anime. And the character Misa in the anime is kind of like this sycophantic, lovelorn follower of Kira. And here what they've done is, one, remove the S from her name, and two, they kind of made her the Light of the movie. She's more light than Light is light. The problem is she's also kind of irritating and shallow, and because her character's so shallow, you don't get, again, the proper motivation for her doing what she does. she is kind of like that, fascinated by the power type of character, and what they can do and what they can change. And in that sense, she's a little bit more similar to Light in the anime. But again, since it was revealed so late into the movie, by then I had kind of just disliked her. Period. Like I was kind of like, man, this bitch, why is he even all
I don't think
puppy-eyed over her?
I don't think it was. I think they revealed it pretty early because that's what I was like. Oh, that's what she is because she's kind of dislikable from the beginning.
They did. I mean, they did. It was early, but it was too late in terms of her being the character that she was supposed to end up being. You know what I mean? For someone that's seen the anime, like okay,
yeah, I guess.
Okay, she's supposed to be that, but by now I just fucking hate her. Kind of,
I thought it was pretty. Yeah, I don't know. I thought the character's motivations were kind of clear early on, which makes you even go right away. Like, why is this freaking dude? Like, it's super obvious that she's just there for.
Oh yeah, in terms of what she's more in love with, that's obvious as hell. But in terms of I mean,
that being said, though, like she doesn't you don't really know why. She's just suddenly she's like, oh, I guess she's just shitty person.
Yeah,
there's no real motivation. It's just
I mean, the impression I got it was she was driven by the power. They have these kind of brief,
but it's
montages of them being all lusty towards each other, and it's kind of like they're turned down by the.
I guess, but it's like she goes into it so quick that you're just like, okay,
yeah, and I kind of forgave that because there is a lot of material they have to span. And they kind of do that well with that montage. They get her from point A or they get them from point A to, whatever point they want to get them at pretty quick. So I kind of got that. I just thought the character was unlikable, really.
Yeah, she really is.
So, and not in the good way, but whatever. L was probably the most likable character for me, and he was kind of like the most direct adaptation of a character for me. And, but even that kind of went off the rails, which was good and bad because it made him kind of a surprise because they did start him off pretty much the way he's portrayed in the show with, some differences here and there, of course. But towards the end, he just kind of lost his fucking gourd and he wasn't as calm as collected as he always was in the show. So it was kind of weird in a good way, but ultimately it kind of made his character kind of a waste because, and this is where getting into the show, it's a battle of wits between the two, and you don't get that here. So really, from the get-go, kind of and in this show also from the get-go he suspects Light, but here he kind of makes leaps and bounds that are like, all right, you already know the guy, just do some clever thing to trap him, but he never does. Because we need Light to continue on his path, Yeah. And in the anime, there's a lot of convenience and there's a lot of Deus Ex Machina type of scenarios, but they work. When they finally reveal stuff, you're like, oh, okay, that works. Despite it being very convenient, that works. And it gives you excitement because there's a battle of wits between these characters that are smart. And they're really mirrors of themselves, of each other. One on the good side, one on the bad side. Batman and Joker, that type of relationship. Here we don't get that. It's just kind of some guy that's all of a sudden in this investigation, and we get it. It kind of delved into his past a little bit. There was not enough. There was too much, and yet not enough for me. And that's me having seen the anime.
Yeah.
Even as a detached viewer, did you feel that?
Oh, I actually thought it was pretty clear. I thought he was the best character in the movie, and the portrayal I thought was the best one because the guy actually played him pretty well. I thought. I thought, yeah, you're right that there is a lot of him just not doing anything for a long time because this has to happen over here.
Yeah.
Which is weird. But not having the idea of what that character's supposed to be or what he is, what the story is supposed to be. I thought it worked. I thought actually him kind of losing it and kind of becoming this emotional driven dude was kind of interesting. Because of how he was portrayed earlier, so it was kind of such a difference,
All right.
And it kind of gave him a little bit of all right, there's something there for him to act this way because of this of what happened. all right, I'll give it to it.
This all ties back, what you mentioned all ties back to L being such a weak character because he's not smart enough, because he's kind of big, stupid,
Yeah, I will
dumbass.
say that. I will say that since his rival, I guess, kind of licks, you're kind of like, well, I mean, why isn't he? Yeah, why doesn't this dude just like do this? And
yeah, you question why doesn't he just drop the guillotine right now? And you question,
I mean,
why is there even a fucking mental fight here? There is none. This guy sucks. This guy does not. Why? There is no conflict between the two, other than this is a bad guy and this is a good guy.
They give you some little hints with the police force and his dad and shit, but it's not enough.
It definitely is not. Okay, now we get to the big one, I guess, Ryuk, which ironically in the movie is hardly ever there. Now he's like an omnipresent guy in the fucking show, and they made some choices that were kind of odd for me. Like in the show, when you touch the Death Note, you can see the creature, and there was so much opportunity to use that in this movie to the advantage of all the characters. Even Mia, who when she touched it, I was like, and they did that scene, which by the way, the comedy in that fell flat as fuck for me. But anyway, in the cafeteria when he takes her and he's like, "You're gonna freak out." And then
I didn't know it was supposed to be comedy. I thought it was just
it was played for a laugh, but it sucked. But anyway, whatever. I thought that was such a missed opportunity. Like, use that conceit to open up the fields. Now, if you've seen the anime, you know what I'm talking about. And even if you haven't seen the anime, I mean, there's just so much that could have been done with a police force, with Light, with Mia. Just by touching a single page, you can see this creature. What does that bring into the play? But instead, they didn't do that. So Ryuk is very limited there. And here he's played more as a beguiler and a tempter, kind of like a proto-satanic figure. He takes delight in the chaos, but he's kind of like fuck Light. Whereas in the show, it's very different. Yes, It
kind of like... At some point, it kind of seems like it kind of becomes obvious he's trying to get rid of Light.
Mm-hmm.
But you're kind of like, why?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make... His choices for people don't make sense.
Yeah.
At this point, you're like, are these the people you picked? These are the people... He said he was the one he picked.
I think...
Why the fuck?
Oh, you know what I think? It was supposed to be like... He picked him, but then saw her and wanted her to get it.
Yeah.
And thus lost interest in Light. But since it was so like unclear, it literally took me up to now to be like, oh, maybe that's why.
Yeah, he was kind of like that's why I say he was more like a satanic figure, like just delighting in the chaos and reveling in it. Versus in the anime where he is. This is another missed opportunity. I realized the budget was 40 mil, but considering they hardly wasted it, they could have taken that entire fucking Ferris wheel sequence out and used the money for this. A big missed opportunity was to show Ryuk in his realm, because that's a big fucking driving point for the characters, all of them, in the show. And Ryuk in the show is a bored god. He is despondent. He is apathetic in his own realm, and because of boredom, he decides to throw the Death Note into the world and entertain himself.
Yeah, you don't get that in the
yes, and as a result, check it out. As a result of him doing that, you see the parallels between him and Light, who wants to become a god, which they touched upon super lightly on this thing. By the way, we'll talk about that right now. And then ultimately, you see the parallels because of that. You see the parallels between Light and the guy pursuing him, L. And they're all kind of the same person, but slightly tuned into a different channel. So it's a very interesting, relationship between the three. And you don't get any of that in here. It's just kind of, he's just like, ha ha ha, I love when shit happens. And he does that in the show, but he's much more interested in the characters. And he's really, truly, you get the impact of him being truly fascinated by how much more horrible human beings can be than anything he's ever seen, elsewhere. And none of that's here. But I will say this, Willem Dafoe was the perfect guy to play the role. I will say that.
He's good. His hand looked really fake at times.
Yeah, it did that.
Yeah, but I agree. Like, you don't really know what the hell why he's there. Like, the movie literally just starts with a Death Note falling, and you're like, oh, okay. I knew that there was more of that because you had told me about it. So I was like, oh, I guess they're not gonna. Okay. But that's like the only thing I knew about the thing,
yeah, and they wouldn't even have to go to the world of the death gods for long. It would just literally be like to establish It would have done so much for it, but
Yeah, I
whatever,
think
they didn't.
he's more like, he's more just like, oh look, I'm gonna go from person
Yeah,
to person, screw
which was
people
a
up.
which was a real fucking waste. But whatever, that was ultimately the most disappointing thing, that he was like a non-entity. And again, for a character that's kind of like tertiary in the anime, that says a lot. You know what I'm saying? And going back to Mia, her being ultimately kind of like the light figure was I kind of enjoyed when, I mean, it was predictable as fuck, like you say, but I kind of enjoyed that
Yeah, it was
because
like the second she came into this, I was like, oh okay, that's what's gonna
yeah, and that's the problem. I think that was really my big problem, was like, it can't possibly be it's that, whatever. But it was kind of cool as a fan of the anime to see, because Misa, her equivalent, or I mean, you can't even really call them equivalent because they do completely different things with the character. But her equivalent in the anime gets shafted so badly by light, and she's used like a fucking rag doll, that you feel sorry
so
for
they
her.
kind of like flip
Yeah,
it.
they kind of flipped the script, so that
Right.
was kind of cool. But ultimately, like I said, the character sucks, so I didn't care. But it would have been neat to, in another form, to see that Misa kind of get her, or Mia in this case, get her come up. I mean, get what she deserves, her little revenge. But they didn't do any of that. They just kind of whatever. This is just too standard, too stereotypical, is what ended up happening for me in the movie. But again, I didn't hate it. But anyway, let's talk about. We can't really talk about the action because there's really no action. But let's talk story-wise overall. Is there anything that didn't gel for you? Let me just start this one off by saying this. I thought at the beginning, despite me liking Light, I thought, man, I'm going to like this movie, because they got real quick into him doing things that made changes on a world level.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for him to do that in the anime, because he's being very careful because of L. Here, Light is super not careful, super stupid with a death note. Doesn't even fucking bother to read the rules well. It fucking sucks. I hated that. Why would you have this power? Why wouldn't you read these rules at least? He's so stupid, man. And then when he fucking sits across the table from his dad and is like, haha, obviously I'm fucking this guy, asking these obvious questions. I was like, come on, man. He's so stupid. They could have at least made him. I understand it's not even the same Light, so I understand that. I can live with that, but why does he have to be so abysmally dumb? So that bothered me, but I did like that they got super quick to that. I'm changing the world and becoming a god, but they abandoned it. They just dropped it. They showed the little montage sequences of him and the people, following Kira and stuff, and then they abandoned it until it was convenient for the plot, when he was being confronted by L in the alleyway and he had to get out. And that one guy that's like a follower of Kira hits L in the back of the. That's the only time they picked up on it again. What a waste.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think I was very forgiving of that shit because
you weren't aware of it.
Yeah, because first of all, I thought this movie is trying to adapt, because I thought it was trying to adapt the freaking show. So I was like, okay, it's trying to adapt all this shit. It's gonna go through it really quick, which does, which it does in the beginning. I'll say like the first 30 minutes are actually pretty interesting, in that it goes super quick.
Yeah.
And it gets to that point that you're talking about. But then, weirdly, it does just drop it. And mind you, they give you an explanation of him being investigated by L. So you're like, all right, it kind of makes sense. And they kind of give you like a little reason.
They could have at least kept it in the background.
At least, something. But it kind of like shifts gear into like a different movie after L comes in.
Yeah.
Which is okay, because he comes in and it kind of like follows him for a little bit. And it's interesting enough. So you're like, all right, this guy's cool. He's portraying the character cool. But then it gets back to what's her face and freaking dumbass face, and you're like, oh, these characters, okay, they're just completely different characters at this point that they were, a little while ago.
Now the show does this too, where there's tonal changes, but it does it effectively, where you're continuously interested in things, and it shifts from character to character to character. Here you're kind of stuck with these two, Light and Mia, for a long fucking time, and when you see the other people, L is not as effectual as he is in the show because of the aforementioned reasons. So it's kind of like, maybe, And the big thing for me was that whole, they could have at least kept that in the background, so that when it happened in the alleyway, it had a little bit more impact.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the favorite part of the show, when it became like this bigger idea. I mean, it was always present there, but when it became more about the people and how they react to Kira than Kira himself. As a result, the ending of the show is tremendously impactful versus the ending here was just kind of like, all right, I guess, but what'd you think overall of the ending?
I mean, it ended.
Yeah, that's kind of the feeling I got. Like they try to do the flashback thing, which is a big thing in the show. They flash back to show how he pulled all these strings and machinations and tricks to get away with his plot versus L's machinations and tricks. Which, by the way, we didn't see any of that. None of L's machinations and tricks.
Yeah, it's more just like shit. It's weird because like you get that L is like some like super smart dude, but they never really show you how.
There's nothing there.
It's just him like realizing shit and then kind of, or like there's a part where like you're like, oh, okay, he was like 50 steps ahead of them, but they never really show you how. It's just like, okay, he is, and mind you, the guy I thought played him well enough so that you kind of got that point. But
the problem is the script has no substance to make that. Yeah, and that's a big fucking issue because L walks a thin line between almost being Kira. Again, the Batman Joker relationship. None of that was here. So ultimately, after everything is said and done, they kind of do a little. I'm not sure Kira / Light does a kind of reveal of how he got away with everything, and it just didn't do it for me. You know what I'm saying? It had none of the impact that any of the reveals on the show had for me. But even on a non-comparison basis, I was like, all right, well, I guess, yeah. And again, not hating the damn thing, just kind of like, all right, it happened.
I mean, it worked.
It
was like, I mean, they established the rules well enough. So you're like, oh, okay.
Let me tell you that right there. That's one thing.
Well, the rules for the movie.
For the movie, okay, yeah, I guess. They changed the rule or two, but they didn't even touch on the rules. They showed like maybe like a few rules, like I'll say 5 or 6 that they used. And that's being, a little bit, I'm being kind with it. But in the show, they really go into the rules. Like every episode shows at least 2 rules, and they're shown for a reason. You have to read them because they'll play some role in it. Now, I'm not saying they should have done that in the movie. I'm just saying that as a person who watched the anime to the movie, I could see the frustrations of anime watchers because they just completely either didn't use rules, disregarded rules, or changed rules. And they just willy-nilly did. Like, all right, so what am I supposed to think as an anime watcher, right? So that's as an anime watcher, as the watcher of the anime. As a casual viewer, I was still kind of like, they should have used a little bit of that. Because Light is so fucking dumb! He is stupid, dude. You gotta admit that. He's a stupid dumbass.
I was talking about the rules of the movie, not the rules of the actual Death
Well, yeah,
Note.
but by default, they are the rules of the movie. Because, that's kind of the point. It's called Death Note.
I thought in a way of since they ignored the rules so much, they could just, make up some bullshit.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they do.
It kind of works in that way. But yeah, Light is stupid. He's not as annoying as I thought he was going to be, because from the previews, I hated the guy. Mm-hmm. In fact, I didn't want to watch the movie because I thought I was going to hate the guy. And that was mainly because and I want to talk about this scene, which is why I'm talking about it now. Yep, that's how it works. Anyway, there's a scene in the trailer that they use when Ryuk first comes in.
Right.
And he's like afraid, right? Light, and he's like screaming, and it looks terrible. The acting was horrible on that preview. And I was like, oh no, I'm going to hate this guy. And I even said, like, his face sucks many times before we watched the movie. And that scene is still shit, I think. The way he acted fear was terrible. What the flip was that shit? I thought it was being played for laughs because it looked like some freaking Disney Channel fear shit. That being said, the guy was fine the rest of the movie. He's stupid as shit, but I thought the actor was fine enough, so you're like, all right, he's just dumb.
Yeah, he was a fucking retard character. The actor, yeah, whatever, I guess. I would have preferred anybody else in this. Oprah Winfrey, whatever, would have been a better Light. But whatever. I didn't hate him. But, yeah, you're right about that fucking reaction. What the fuck
was that?
Now, I will grant you this. That even in the anime, I thought Light, and they show it to show, they do it to show how detached and emotionless he is. That he barely even has a reaction when the Shinigami first appears to him. But I always thought, man, even if I was a fucking emotionless bastard, if I saw this huge hulking thing in front of me, I'd be kind of like, whoa, fuck, you know? But what the fuck was that?
They had him like scream and like run away and shit. But that initial like scream face was like some Disney Channel Nickelodeon shit.
I wasn't even bothered by the initial one. I was bothered
the whole scene was
by
shit.
Continuing as a clawed at the window.
That was bad. The initial little reaction was bad. But then thankfully, like, Willem Dafoe comes in and is like, all right, this is pretty cool. But damn, that initial reaction was shit.
It was fucking ass. Anyway, overall, we started with a kind of like a positive slant to this.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I do want to say that I enjoyed the movie. I was being very forgiving because I thought it was trying to adapt 40-something episodes. That being said, I still think I liked it enough. I think I liked the first half more than the second half. Mm-hmm. Because it kind of like, even though I liked L, I really liked him. It just kind of like falls flat towards the end, and then that end is just kind of like, okay,
whatever.
So he's like, okay.
Yeah,
I know that they want to do a sequel. Apparently, Netflix is interested in 2 movies. And I guess that's why it was ended like so bleh. But I don't think that's going to happen.
I mean, they really covered the gamut of the entire series. But again, ineffectively. And they didn't put in the stuff that was good. So why bother? If there's a sequel, they got a lot of stuff to fix. Because they already basically either covered or skipped over or glossed over more often than not the bulk of the series. So what the fuck are you gonna do now? But anyway, it would probably be better just to have. They should have just done. Well, actually, in context of the anime, it wouldn't have made sense for Ryuk to just drop the book somewhere else because then we'd have to acknowledge the fact that the world is different. But they should have just done a standalone. Like, fuck it. This didn't happen. Let's just do something. This doesn't have to be like. This doesn't have to be whatever.
It basically is. They just.
It is, but it isn't because they keep the basic
names,
structure. You know, they keep the basic structure. It's just and because of that, they waste so much. As a guy that saw the anime, and even as one is not, I still felt a lot let down in a lot of places. But like I said, there's good moments.
Yeah, I'll say that there's a lot of good stuff. Which is why I liked it.
So let's give it a rating. Like on a 1 to 10, what do you give it?
It's alright.
Numerical values here.
Oh, man. See, that's hard though.
I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 1 to 10.
Okay, I'll say this.
And I'm being nice.
I'll say this as a movie, like standalone structure movie, right?
That's the worst phrase ever, but yes.
Like as just like a movie.
As a movie, yeah.
Yeah, as a movie, freaking like a 5. But in my scale, I actually kind of liked it, so I'll give it like a 6.5 on my scale. Now, if I'm gonna be completely honest and look at it as just a movie, it's pretty shit. If I'm gonna like take my likes into consideration, I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah, I'll give it 2 ratings. 1, I already said, a 5, and that's being more than fair. I'm just giving it the benefit of the doubt of maybe if I see it a second time it'll be better, which I doubt.
I think if I see it a second time, I might dislike it more because I was being very forgiving, and I had that in mind. It's adapting the show 47 episodes, or what is it, 40-something episodes?
37.
Yeah, whatever. This thing is going super freaking quick. I kind of have to forgive all this shit.
Yeah. So you might dislike it more. I might like it more, but I don't think so. But as an adaptation, I give it a fucking -10. It's fucking shit. As an adaptation, it's fucking terrible. Piece of crap. Would never want to see it again as an adaptation. Fucking assmonger. I would rather see dolphins rape dolphins than this shit as an adaptation. As a movie, again, I'm being super nice. A 5 out of 10. And that's being super fair. But anyway, check it out. Check the anime out. If you want a substantial and cool story, yeah. If you've seen the anime, don't check the movie out. It fucking sucks.
It seems that those people were right. It seems that
if you
saw the anime, you're gonna hate it.
As far as I'm concerned, those people were right. You know, I didn't think they were right about Ghost in the Shell. I still don't think they're right about Ghost in the Shell. They were definitely fucking right about this, in my opinion, as an adaptation. Fucking ass. Even as and we know, you know as well as I do, that I'm okay with creative liberties and adaptations.
Yeah.
This one was ass as an adaptation. But anyway, that's been our thoughts on Death Note Netflix version, US version, whatever you want to call it.
Sequel never to be released.
Tell us what you think about it. Are we right? Are we wrong? Do we suck on the schlong? Hit like, share, subscribe, and we're out.
Flip is that shit.